Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Fearless and Undefined. And on this episode of Super Queens, I have a very special national queen who has been vocal from the start at the early age of 12 about what it's like to have Tourette's and how it affects her day to day life, as well as what could happen potentially in an interview room or a pageant stage. She did so great at nationals this past summer, and I cannot wait for you guys to get to know her story a little bit more. So let's go see if she's ready. Hi, thank you so much for joining me today. If you don't mind just telling everyone just a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Arianna Matthews. I'm a senior acting major at the University of Oklahoma. I have the title Miss Ultimate USA, where I competed in July. I was the only contestant from Oklahoma, so I loved getting to share that part of my life. But when I was there, I also talked a lot about having Tourette syndrome. I was diagnosed when I was 12 and starting out really shy, didn't know how to talk about it, kept it to myself, but through pageantry and through friends I met in the pageant world and the Tourette Association of America, I was able to become an ambassador and learn how to talk about Tourette syndrome. And that's what I did at Miss Ultimate USA.
That is awesome. So, you said you had it when you were 12. What were some of the defining things that kind of stuck out to you at that age before you were diagnosed?
I remember I was on the basketball team. Not that I was any great, but I had so much fun. But I remember being super stressed out that I couldn't stop blinking. And I remember my eyes, I would constantly blink and I would make lots of like weird faces. And my whole family, everyone hypothesized that I was just tired, that I was getting drained from basketball. And I ended up having a seizure when I was 12. And I went to the neurologist and got tested for all that. And we brought it up and we were like, hey, I have a lot of facials and a lot of sounds because I don't missed a part. I also had a lot of like throat clearing and nose sniffing tics. So we got my tonsils and adenoids removed because we thought I had allergies.
Oh.
And then fast forward to when I got diagnosed with epilepsy, I talked to the neurologist about my symptoms and she was like, oh, yeah, that's Tourette syndrome. And just went on. And I was like, wait, I don't even know what that is. So it was nice to finally have an explanation. But I definitely for a while was just confused on why I couldn't control myself, basically.
Oh, wow. So you had to have your tonsils taken out even though there was nothing wrong with them. That's kind of.
Yeah,
Well, at least you never have to worry about those ever again.
exactly. Because I would like get sick a lot just in general. So we were like, okay, I need to do this anyway. And then after the fact, we were like, well,
Oh,
we
well.
we killed birds with one stone, I guess.
Yeah. So, what would you say is the hardest part about having Tourette's as well as competing in pageants?
I I am a naturally high anxiety person. I get very anxious and stressed out easily, especially during pageants because it's very stressful. You get up on stage, you interview, and no matter how much I prep, I'm always going to be anxious. And whenever I'm anxious, that's when my tics are the worst. So during pageant week, especially at Miss Ultimate USA Nationals, I tried to use it as a redirect. Yes, I'm really stressed and yes, I'm anxious and my tics are really bad, but I tried to use that as a learning opportunity to talk about Tourette syndrome more and share, hey, this is what's happening with me. Now you know. So kind of using it as an outlet because yes, it's not fun, but I can use it as an opportunity.
I love that. That's awesome. Did you get to talk about it in your interview?
I did. I talked a lot about it. They asked me about I went to Washington D.C. when I was like maybe 13. I think it was like right after I got diagnosed. I had a friend in the pageant world who had Tourette syndrome and she was an ambassador and she taught me about this program. And so I got to talk about that in my interview and about how I was inspired by her to not hide my tics, not be afraid to show that part of myself and about how I tried to channel what she did for me for others. So
I love that. That's so cool. What a great opportunity. How has this affected your life with school, whether it be like growing up through school or even in college? Is there like something that has really stuck out and made it a little bit harder?
I have been asked, I cannot tell you how many times why I'm winking at someone. And I know that's like so silly, but I've had classmates and literally a week ago, he was like, did you just wink at me? And I was like, no, that wasn't it. And so I explained and he was like, okay, I didn't know that's what your tick was. And I was like, I promise that's not what that was. And it's just little things like that they're not hard, but it's just like, do other people really have to explain that I'm not winking at my professors? And and like I said, I'm an acting major, and so having to kind of turn off my tics when I'm performing, naturally they kind of, I'm focused on memorizing my lines or acting, and they don't usually present themselves very strong. But if I'm tired or stressed, then sometimes I have to work a little bit harder to keep them under for scenes or stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Is acting like, does it kind of mute everything, like a stress reliever outlet for all of it?
Yeah, I've always been amazed, but also have no idea why. Whenever I am like in a scene or something or on stage or performing, they kind of just go away. And I don't know if it's because I'm so focused on other things, or my body's like, okay, don't screw this up. You're being watched right now. So I don't really know what part of it is, but it does work as a muter, I guess.
That's pretty cool. Have you ever had like a tick happen during like a big part of a pageant, like an interview or like on stage maybe?
I had to do onstage question for the very first time at Miss Ultimate USA. And like I said, I'm a high anxiety person. So backstage, I had to do lots of deep breaths and like prepare myself. But watching my video back, I can see some of my face ticks and stuff. But it was, I had talked about Tourette syndrome on stage and stuff. So I hope people can kind of correlate the two. Oh, the movements or facial she's making is related to the Tourette syndrome. Or like in interview, I don't hold my tics back. I fortunately don't have the vocal tics where I speak or make a lot of movements or sounds. Mine are just kind of more in my face or in my hands are a big one. So they're not incredibly disruptive, but when I have had tics, I don't hide them.
Okay. Do you have any that like hurt the most or maybe one that just doesn't bother you that much?
I I've had some that like my wrists, I like roll them or pop them in my fingers, and there's been a couple of times it's gotten so bad I've had to put braces on my hands just to like stop them because they'll ache and they hurt. And I haven't had to do that in a while. Luckily, it's come down. Um, I have an ear one. Well, I like blow and pop my ears, and after a while, they start to get really sore and stuff. But my tics kind of rotate in and out, if that makes sense. They come and go, and they're not the same ones forever. But my eyes and my blinking have been here forever. Those have not gone away. But
Okay. Are there like certain things that will like trigger like a new tick and you're like, oh, okay, that's new?
I with the ear one, it's interesting because it's when I get sick, and I don't know if it's because my like lymph nodes or something are like swelling up, but I notice whenever I'm sick, that's how I know I'm getting sick. Because I'm like, oh, my ear tick is back, and I have no idea how to explain it. So that one is a big one. Being it's possible to trigger other people's tics or syndromes. So whenever I went to Washington D.C. and we were in a room with 100 other people with Tourette syndrome, people were definitely going crazy. They were definitely triggering other people's tics. And I left. I was with my nana, my grandma, and I was like, Nana, I have 10 new tics. I feel like so they can be triggered, and they're random. I don't really know how it works.
Yeah, the last girl that I got to interview, she also had Tourette's, and she told me she went to something like that, where it's literally just a room full of other people with Tourette's, and it was just like a ping pong ball off the wall type of thing. And I was like, oh, that's pretty
Yep.
interesting.
Yep, literally. People are saying things, and you just have to sit there and be like, okay, hold it in.
Breathe.
Or let it out.
One of them. I love that.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so my last question is, what is something you would like to tell other girls that have Tourette's that are maybe a little bit scared to enter pageantry because they're worried about showing it?
I have always tried to view it as just a part of me and to use it as an outlet to educate, because there's so much misunderstanding. Well, that wasn't a word. There's so much misunderstanding and miscommunication. That's what I was trying to say about what Rett syndrome is and how it's displayed like in the media, especially as an actress. I want to use that as an outlet to kind of help that side of it. But being on stage and ticking, or being in an interview and ticking, doesn't make you any less capable a thing in pageants. And I just hope that if I talk about my tics and be transparent about what I go through, other people feel the same. And then that's how we can educate and raise awareness and help with the Tourette syndrome world and people understanding what it is.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and being able to share your story. I know that Nationals is coming up this summer, and I can't wait to see you there and officially meet you in person. And I can't wait to see everything you have until then.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.